Good Thursday morning, child development. So today I am going to be gone. My oldest is running a fever that's not likely to go away anytime soon, unfortunately. So what I've done is I've made a video recording for your lesson today so we can still get some good productive learning done versus having some time just fly out the window. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at Canvas, and we're at the week at a glance, and I'm looking at Thursday's agenda, okay? And if you're already there, you've gotten to the video, right? But before you start playing the video, or if you are playing it, make sure you've got your set of notes out that we started yesterday. That way you can fill out the rest of it while the video is going, okay? So if you need to, go ahead and pause this for a minute, get those notes out, and you can continue filling in some of those missing words. All right, assuming you have your notes out and ready to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the PowerPoint. First hour, you can tune me out for just a second because second hour, we didn't get all the way through the bones and teeth slide as well as the next one after this. So second hour, let's do that really quick and get caught up where first hour is at. So looking at your paper, we're at bones and teeth. Tooth decay is very common. So the word common is what we need to be filling out on our paper. Very common at this stage just because they are not the best at brushing their teeth. And so with this age group, we need to help them. Sometimes it's a simple matter of talking them through how to brush their teeth, reminding them to get to all of their teeth, not just the front ones. But some kids, we might actually have to help physically brush their teeth, okay? So just be prepared for whatever the kids are needing and just support them in the ways that they're needing, okay? Next slide. Bones, muscle, and joints are more prone to injury in preschoolers than in older children. So we're looking to fill in the word injury on our set of notes. So a couple of reasons for this. Ligaments are very loose. They're not intact the way that they are for you and myself. So with that said, we want to be very careful with any kind of pulling or tugging on any of their hands, their arms, their feet, their legs, because things can get popped out of their sockets pretty easily, and that's not a fun feeling for them. That can be very painful, and also for you as the onlooker, it can be really scary because you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And usually it means an emergency room visit to like a doctor of some sort to get those things popped back into place. So no tugging on hands, no tugging on arms. So heads up, if you've ever twirled a kid around by just holding onto their hands, yeah, you shouldn't be doing it. Even though they're giggling hysterically, nope. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. There's a reason that saying exists, okay? Another reason for the injuries is because their bones aren't fully formed. They're very soft in a sense still, which means they're very fragile and they can break very easily. So we want to try to limit any kind of hard, impactful activities, any kind of like really aggressive wrestling or ruckus play of any kind. This is why you don't see preschool kids playing full-out tackle football. At least it's not advised, at least not by the child development professionals out there, because they're too fragile yet. Their bones aren't ready for that stuff. Another reason would be because we do have some kids who have childhood diseases that can lead to bone and joint deformities. Now, obviously, this would be a smaller percentage, but it is good to be aware that we would have some kids that we work with that we need to have special strategies in mind for how we can best help them grow and develop so we're not causing further harm and damage to some of their bones, muscles, and joints. All right, first hour. Now I need you to tune in. So this is first and second hour. Here we go. New learning for the day. So first, let's get into what are motor skills. Motor skills are motions carried out when the brain, nervous system, and muscles work together. So anytime we're using any kind of muscles in our body, whether it's big movements, small movements, we are carrying out those motions, and that's what motor skills are. So when we're working with kids, we're going to group this into two different motor skill areas. We've got gross motor and we have fine motor. So starting with gross motor is where we have bigger movements which are using large muscles. Okay, so that's the word that's missing. Make sure you get large written down. So large muscles, so think of your arms, your legs, your torso, your feet, all those big areas in the body, right? So examples of large muscles that would be used would be anytime kids are rolling over, they're sitting up without falling down, they're crawling, they're walking, they're running, they're skipping, they're jumping, they're bending and stretching. All of these large muscles are being used to do those actions. Whereas fine motor is where we're using small movements, which means small muscles. So make sure you get that on your paper, small muscles. So we're using fingers and toes and wrists and lips and tongues. So examples here would be picking up objects. So think of things like crayons and colored pencils and markers and scissors, glue sticks, small blocks and puzzle pieces. Yeah, you're going to need some like finger, hand muscles to do those actions. The one that you might be kind of raising an eyebrow to is the one where it's like lips and tongue. Okay, bear with me. So I want you to think of babies through toddler years, and some of our preschool kids are going to be doing this too. So that's why we're talking about it. Whenever they're picking up things, especially the babies and toddlers, majority of the time, they're going to start chewing on it. They're going to like drool all over it. It goes to their mouths. Okay. And oftentimes we would just chalk that up to, oh, they're teething. That's what they're doing. And yeah, for some of them, that's totally what they're doing. But we have to remember that their lips and their tongue, it's sensorial. So they're using sensory to discover the object that they're currently chewing on or sucking on. So their brains are figuring out textures of objects. It's figuring out if something is hard or soft. It's figuring out the temperature of things. They're learning while they're chewing on things. It's not just a teething thing completely. So that's why we have it listed here for fine motor, because yeah, some of our 3 to 5 year olds, they're still doing stuff like this. They're doing learning with their mouths. Okay. All right, so let's focus on gross motor movements for a little bit here. So we're going to look at dynamic balance and static balance. Dynamic balance is when they're moving, basically from like point A to point B, okay? So we're trying to get from here to over there. So this picture with the balance beam, the kids started on one end and the goal is to get to the other end. That's just one example of dynamic balance. But for day-to-day stuff, it's I got out of bed and I could make it to the bathroom to brush my teeth. I was able to go from the living room to the kitchen to get myself a snack. Well, yeah, that's going to take dynamic balance to get from this place to this place, right? Static balance, on the other hand, is when they're being still. Now, don't think of this as being like completely stiff as a board, because that's not the case. But static balance is when you're in one place and you're trying to maintain your balance. So if you've ever like stood on one foot, that would be static balance. If you were standing on a step, that is static balance. Definitely tricky for kids to do. And I want you to think sometimes it's even tricky for some of us to do. Case in point, for me to do the quad stretch where you like hold onto your foot behind your back and it's kind of sitting up near your bottom side, that's a really hard thing for me to do. I usually have to like hold my arm out or put a hand up against like a wall or a chair or something. Otherwise, there's times where I could topple over and I would lose my balance. And I'm how much older than these kids? Oh my goodness. So when that question down below is which is easier, definitely dynamic balance, okay? Static balance is going to take lots and lots of practice and repetition. All right, other things we want to help them achieve is body rotation. So this idea of not being stiff as a board, because you want them to be able to like turn their torsos and turn their heads and rotate their arms. And there's all kinds of things here. Could you imagine if we were all stiff as boards and you want to turn to go look out the window, but now your whole body has to do it because you can't turn your head? Oh, yikes. That would be frustrating. So anything that we can do to get them to rotate their body parts, that's going to be big. And then last but not least is weight shifting. So we want them to get them to shift weight from one leg to another, because this is going to help with crawling. It's going to help with walking, running, skipping, jumping, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Otherwise, they're just going to be like a heavy bag of sand that's not able to move anywhere. Yikes. That would not be good. Okay. All right, then we're on to fine motor movement. So with fine motor movement, we want them to manipulate things. We want them to use their hands, especially, and their fingers, to build up their hand-eye coordination. So I want them to hold onto a crayon and color. I want them to pick up a scissors and cut out shapes. I want them to put together jigsaw puzzles. I want them to do things that's making them use their hands, because that's going to build up those connections in their brains where we have those nerve fibers and that myelin sheath stuff that we talked about yesterday. And the more we get them to practice this, the more they build that up, and those messages are going to speed up, and they're going to be able to do those skills with mastery sooner rather than later. Other things to think about, their hand preference. This is a time when they're starting to discover what their dominant hand would be, which again, dominant hand is where you have the tendency of using one hand for things over another. Now, there is a chance we might have a few kids who are ambidextrous who can use both hands very skillfully, but for the majority of us, that's not really the case. A lot of us figure out like, yep, I'm a righty, or nope, I'm a lefty, and that's okay. So knowing that they're discovering this in the preschool ages, we want to do some things that can help them determine their hand dominance. First and foremost, I want you to understand that their brain is already wired before they are ever born. Isn't that crazy? It's already wired before they're born of what their hand dominance is going to be. I say this to you because I have seen adults, and I have had friends where they are trying to force their kids to be a righty or a lefty. Oh, no, don't do this. That's just going to end up causing so much more frustration in the future for these kids. Their brain already has it figured out. You trying to force them is going against what their brain is wired to do. And that can lead to all kinds of problems. So we want to let them discover it for themselves, because their brain isn't going to just tell them like, hey kid, you're going to be this someday. Nope. It's going to take physical discovery, because you got to build up those nerve connections, hand-eye coordination, and then it's going to start registering, oh yeah, this is what my hand dominance is going to be. Okay. So ways that we can do this is when we hand them something, we can place it at their midline or center line. Okay, so what that means is when I hold out an object, I'm going to hold it out in the middle so they have equal opportunity with their right or left hand to reach out for it. I could also put the object down on a table or a floor, and now they have to pick it up and they have to choose which hand they're going to use. Okay, versus if I hold something out and it's like right in front of their right hand, that does them no good. No good whatsoever, because now I'm forcing them to use the right hand whether they wanted to or not. Okay. Another thing I can do is have activities planned that is encouraging them to use both of their hands. One of the greatest examples of this would be stringing beads, because one hand has to hold onto the string, the other hand has to hold onto the beads. So no matter what, they have to use both of their hands. Okay, so that's just a little bit with hand preference. All right, the next few slides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an activity, and I want you to determine, would this be a gross motor activity or would it be a fine motor activity? Okay, so looking at this one where they're tracing their hands, would you say that is gross or fine motor? It is fine motor. Very good, using those fingers. Okay, walking across the balance beam, would this be gross motor or fine motor? Totally gross motor, because they have to move across the beam, and that's going to take some large muscles. Okay, how about this one? Picking up the pom-poms using the tongs in their hands. I think I just gave it away because I said hands there, right? So this has to be fine motor. And this is such a fun way. So instead of just using like their grips, on just like fingers and hands themselves, give them objects, like challenge them a little bit if using their pincer grips is already a pretty easy thing to do. Okay, we've got the floor mats, the ball pit, the tunnels back here. Would this be gross motor or fine motor? Totally gross motor, because that's going to be a lot of large muscle movement, right? And then I want you to see this one. This would be more for the toddler ages. So this first one would be great for preschool age kids. This next one would be good for those like baby toddler ages. Okay, next one, we have these tweezers right here along with the pom-poms, and what they did was they took a pool noodle and they cut it into slices, and now the objective is to take the tweezers to pick up the pom-poms to put them in the holes of the pom-poms, or the pool noodle, sorry, so you can see what they're doing here. Yep, totally gonna be fine motor, good job. Okay, then we have the parachute. Oh, so fun, the parachute. Okay, what do you think, gross motor or fine motor? I can see where some of you might have some conflicting ideas here. Mainly it's going to be gross motor because this is a lot of like arm and torso movement to get the parachute to go up and down. But I could understand if some of you said fine motor, because to hold on to those little tags on the sides and loops, that's going to take some skill. So I could see where you could say both for this one, depending on what your objective is. All right, how about this one? Kicking the soccer ball, gross motor or fine motor? Totally gross motor, you betcha. How about the balance stepping stones? The reason they're called balance stepping stones is because some of these stones actually slant. They don't all sit completely even. So would you say that's gross motor or fine motor? Totally gross motor, good job. Next one, we have bead stringing. Oh my gosh, we should know this one already. This is going to be fine motor, right? Because you have to use your hands, and it's a great way to practice their hand dominance and discovering what their brain has already been wired to do. How about this one? We've got the hopscotch. Would that be gross motor or fine motor? Totally gross motor. I think you're getting the hang of it. Even though I'm not there, I'm pretty sure you're getting the hang of it. I'm being very subjective right now. So we'll see if I'm right when I come back and join you again in class. All right, how about the cube, where they can practice tying shoes, buttoning buttons, snapping snaps, zipping zippers, buckling buckles? What do you think, gross motor or fine motor? Totally fine motor. And some of you might have actually had stuffed animals when you were little that you could practice like the zipping and buttoning and the laces. This one's nice because it's a cube and you can have a couple kids on each side practicing those basic life skills. All right, and then last one here, we've got the beads set on this paper, and they had to take a marker or crayon and trace throughout the beads. What do you think, fine motor or gross motor? Totally fine motor, you got it. Okay, so let's get into our activity. Next one here, we're going to look at some gross motor skills in action just because it's fun to see some of these kids trying to demonstrate the skills that we're trying to help them achieve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my screen to this video clip here, and I want you to watch girl in white shirt, boy in, it's like a navy colored shirt, or you could say boy in glasses, and then boy in white shirt, okay? And what I want you to watch for when they're asked to do a certain motion, sorry, the custodians are vacuuming outside the room. Hopefully that's not too loud for you. I want you to watch how they're able to perform the skill or the movement. And we're going to notice some differences. And that's okay because kids are not going to develop at the same age and rate and pace. Okay, they're all going to be in different places. All the more reason we need to give them opportunity to practice their physical skills. So I'm going to keep my volume somewhat down just because this video gets a little loud and scratchy, and I don't want that to hurt your ears when you're playing this lesson back. So here we go. We've got the first skill. They have been asked to hop in place. So look at our first three friends there. How are they doing with hopping in place? Yeah, look at our boy in the white shirt here. And now he fell over. Oh my goodness. So clearly they're in some different places with that skill, and that's totally fine. Okay, next one they're going to do, they're asked to hop on one foot. And again, the idea is we want them to hop in place on one foot. Oh, and now he just said, oh, this is hard. But now this one said, not for me. So some of them are finding difficulty with it. Some of them feel it's an easy task to do. Okay, next they've been asked to skip. Skipping is one of the hardest physical movements for this age group to master. It is so hard. Like, look at them. They're trying. They're really trying. But look at, like, these. They don't even know really what to do right now, do they? They're just kind of walking. This one was trying a little bit. But does it look like they've mastered skipping? Nope. No, definitely not mastered yet. So they're having some trouble shifting their weight and getting some body rotation going there. Okay, the next one they're asked to do is to balance, and they're going to do walking heel to toe, heel to toe. So we'll see how they do with that. So they're asking you to put their arms out to help them with their balance. So we've got the arms out. And their teacher is going to even tell them, like, pretend to be an airplane. So that's why this kid is, like, kind of jumping around, because he's like, I'm an airplane, I'm flying, which is very age appropriate. Okay, so now they're going heel to toe. Oh, look at, they got good heel to toe, but look at, kind of shuffling there, right? Okay. All right, then the next one they're asked to do is to walk backwards. And they want to walk backwards without having to look behind them. So kind of watching what's going on. Ooh, notice like a couple of them are looking back. Probably to make sure they're not running into each other. But some of them are looking back to see, like, are they doing it? But it's definitely a slower movement. They weren't going at a super, super speedy pace there. So when you think of our three friends, it's just a great example of how they're all in different places when it comes to this development. I want you to try to remain objective. And the reason I say this is because some people would observe this and they would say, oh, well, she's probably older and that's why she's better at doing these actions and he's probably younger. Or she's better behaved and he's just kind of spazzy and all over the place. Oh, no. That is so not fair to these kids. Here's the thing, age-wise, what if she's one of the younger ones, but she just hit a growth spurt and the other ones haven't caught up to her? Oh, and what if he's one of the older ones and he's just not there yet with his skill development? Oh. And what if it's not a behavior reason that he's being a little what people would call spazzy? What if he's just so excited and he's like really ready to go and do these actions? Well, that's not a behavior problem then. My point being, do not get subjective when you observe kids do their physical skills. Always keep in mind, they're going to be in different places from kids around them. They're all going to achieve these milestone movements in their own time and in their own way. So it's up to us to be patient and to have grace for them and to understand they're going to get there when they get there, and that's okay. Some of them might get it in a week. Some of them it might take months. Some of them it's going to take years. Case in point, I know some elementary kids who are in 2nd and 3rd grade, they're still not able to skip. Case in point, I've had some freshman students, they're still not able to skip even as freshmen. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Everyone develops in their own way, okay? So just be prepared for that. And that leads us into the next part of our day, which is going to be to find some activities to help them develop these gross motor skills that we're wanting them to achieve. So keep in mind, we've got body rotation, weight shifting, dynamic balance, static balance. All of this is in your notes, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Canvas. Okay, remember we were on Thursday, and we just finished up our discussion. We just talked about difference between fine motor and gross motor. We just watched the video clip. Now we're getting into finding activities. So I need you to click into your class period's set of activity slides, and I'm going to click into first hour. So here's first hour, okay? So our job is to find activities that are going to help kids with their body rotation, their balance, and their weight shifting. So if you notice these slides, they're color coded, and it's yellow, yellow, yellow. Ooh, look at weight shifting, body rotation, balance activities. Whoever takes the ones in yellow, all three of these slides are yours. Ooh, then look, the next three, they're green. So whoever takes a green slide, all three of those slides are yours. Ooh, and then look, there's blue. Okay, well, whoever takes the blue, all three of those slides are yours, because we're trying to find activities that help kids with each of these areas of gross motor development. Now, notice static and dynamic balance I've put together. So just make sure that you label if your activity is for static balance or if it's for dynamic balance. Okay, so what you can do then is you can go onto Google and you can search weight shifting activities for preschoolers, or you can search body rotation activities for preschoolers, or you can search static balance activities for preschoolers, or dynamic balance activities for preschoolers. And that will be very specific and give you some good search results. Now, let's say you're just not getting what you're looking for. Okay, then I would broaden your search and I would say gross motor activities for preschoolers. You're going to get thousands of search hits with this one. But here's the thing. When you find those activities, now it's a matter of, okay, you find one you like. Well, is it balance? Is it body rotation? Or is it weight shifting? So make sure you get them categorized in your slides from that broad search of gross motor activities for preschoolers. Okay, now the goal is with the rest of our time to find 5 activities today, and it can be any 5 you want. So you could find all of your weight shifting ones today. You could find one weight one for shifting weight. You could find 2 for body rotation and then maybe 2 for balance. Any combination, as long as you're trying to find 5 before you leave class today. Tomorrow, you will have time to find your remaining 10. Okay, that way, on Monday, we're going to be able to look at all the activities you found. So ideally, you're going to have all of this work done on your slides by the end of class tomorrow. Okay, so that's what we have. So goal for today is just 5, and then end of class tomorrow, all of your activities should be found. Okay, if you want to work on your own, that's fine. If you want to work, because look, it's plural. If you want to work with a couple people, feel free to do so. Just make sure you get all of their names on top of the slides. Okay, so with that, the rest of the time is yours to complete your work, and I'm excited to see what you find. Have a good rest of your day.